For me, as the comedian, and for every comedian in this country, laughter, we get the privilege of not only hearing laughter, but of looking at that auditorium as we take that bow, of seeing all South Africans under one roof, laughing at the same stuff. Those are not discussions you're going to get on X.
Exactly.
You know, because people don't want us, they don't want to hear that we prefer to fight, we prefer conflict. Some people wake up in the morning, who can I take down today?
Shift Happens with Richard Sutton, powered by First Light.
Welcome to the Shift Happens podcast with me, Richard Sutton. Here we speak to people who have navigated extraordinary pressure, adversity and change. Moments that tested them, transformed them and ultimately shaped who they became. Join me as we explore what made their shift happen. He has built one of the most commercially successful careers in South African history, a performer who has remained relevant for more than 2 decades, a storyteller whose work has connected audiences across South Africa and around the world. In today's session, we hand the mic to Marc Lottering. Marc, what an honor, privilege.
Thank you.
South African icon. Before we kick in, I watched your Hall of Fame speech. Very funny.
Oh,
By the way,
okay.
very funny. And you accepted the award. The whole room laughed. You had them in hysterics. But the one thing you said was, awards cannot define who you are. That's what every loser says. So it made me think. And I've been reflecting on this since I watched it. If it's not the recognition, what keeps you going?
When you feel the energy from that audience, when you feel love from that audience, it just takes you to another place. No money can buy that. So when you ask me what keeps me going, if it's not awards, and I believe that I should be having many more awards than what I do have, because I'm really phenomenal at what I do.
I think that's exactly what you said.
but imagine you define yourself around that. You know, you can't. So it's the people.
The people.
It's the audience. And yesterday I thought, because I've got to go tonight, I have to talk at a faculty for Achievers Awards, and there are people in the room who are going to be getting awards. And yesterday I thought that, what am I going to say about this? Because how do I really feel about this? And I thought, to get an award, it's the cherry on the cake. Right? But the cake is still lekker without the cherry. The cherry is just decoration. But you are that lekker cake. And you've got to show up every day and be your fabulous self, irrespective of whether somebody's going to acknowledge what you do or award you for what you do, because most of the time it's not going to happen.
So it's so amazing you say, because we're so fixated on the destination. Like, our life is about the destination. We lose sight of the journey.
Yeah.
So what a lot of what you said is about the journey. And there was a famous coach in the US. He was struggling with his team, like real underdogs, and he went to a psychiatrist within his faculty of one of the universities. And he said, "What should I do?" And the psychiatrist said, "All I want you to do is focus on the moment by moment. Don't focus on the score, don't focus on the outcome, moment by moment." Turned out to be one of the best teams over time in history, just off that principle. But another thing that really struck a chord with me right now, is our motivations in life can be self-growth, self-development, accolades. It can be community, it can be contribution to others, it can be excellence as we define it, perfection. It doesn't exist really, or it can be like real social movements and social change. And I think with that audience interplay, it really reflects contribution. It's about making a difference to everyone who's taken the time, not even paid the ticket, but taken the time to walk in and be moved and transported by what you have to say and show. And so it's amazing. Sure. But I want to dive into the boy who grew up in retreat, son of a Pentecostal pastor. I want to know about that boy not the performer that you've become, the master of the kid in that house, in that world. What was he like?
Sure, it's an interesting one because I have one brother, and it's just the two of us. And my father was the pastor of a church, as you correctly say. So he was devoted to the church. And my mother comes from a time in the world and a generation where she was the pastor's wife. So you kind of sacrifice your own identity. And so we spent a lot of time in church as kids. And when we came home, it was a Christian upbringing. But what I do remember is that there was never a lot of friction. And I think I still carry that with me in life. I don't believe in business, in going to a meeting or in putting a show together. I don't believe in chaos.
There was no friction, but was there joy?
You only know when you become an adult and you work through a lot of stuff that maybe what you perceive to be joy. Things could always have been a bit better, but you said earlier on today this weird thing of perfection. It doesn't really exist. So I think when I growing up, it was great, and I don't think it could have been another way for me, because you, especially with me growing up in Retreat on the Cape Flats, because coming from that home with just the four of us, the parents being devoted to church, but there being no chaos, but there being lots of time for laughter, because I come from a family where people loved laughing, especially getting together on a Sunday afternoon in whatever auntie's lounge. Lots of laughter and mimicking others and talking about the neighbors. So I think that's where my skills came from, to observe people. But I do know that I grew up with, although my parents, I don't think they were hands-on as the textbooks today would require for parents to be, because they were devoted to God. But there was a lot of love, and I knew that it existed because you soon realize, because of what other people call you, that you are a gay child, that you're different. And that, obviously, for me, I could have been a lot more shattered than what I should have been, because when my mother saw me and when my father saw me, it was just their prized child, Mark. So in that way, strangely enough, although it was the Pentecostal church full of doctrine, there was just no judgment from the home life. So I kind of felt protected in that way, because when I went out there and you found yourself at primary school, the boy Mark was mocked, emotionally attacked, but somehow, and I would say it's because of the love from family, I never ever crumbled. I never became smaller because of that. But I quickly learned, and I think every gay child watching this, or gay adult watching this who remembers being a gay child, is you become strong very, very quickly.
Certainly forced to.
Yeah.
But, just an interesting observation, and the observation is, it centers around resilience. And resilience is about reinvention, adaptability. It's not so much grit and persistence. We sometimes misconstrue it. And what a lot of people ask me is, how do we create a resilient child? How do we create a child that can move through life, through all the chaos and the uncertainty and the challenges and the expectations, the demands, the failures, the setbacks and lack of conformity? How do we create that for a child? And I only have one answer for them. It's different in adults. Adults have a bigger suite. Safety. The child must feel safe at home.
Amen.
And what you described there was this incredible safety. But just, a question on the side, you mentioned earlier that your mom was kind of playing the role.
Yes.
In terms of her and her friends, the woman around the kitchen table, what did you see? Were they holding things? Was there this weight that they had to carry that you were aware of?
I remember food, and I remember my mom and her friends getting together when I was at home and still a lighty, still a kid. There would be maybe a prayer meeting during the day before the lemon meringue was being brought out, which is how my character, one of the first characters that I did was a character called Aunty Merle. And the reason that character did so well with audiences, and still does,
Based on your mom?
Based on my mom and her friends, is because of the memory that you're asking me about now. Because Aunty Merle walks onto stage, if you can say walks on, I mean struts on, and people scream with laughter, not necessarily because the punchlines are dropping, but I look at the audience and a lot of them are sitting like this because they are remembering that. And it comes with a lot because, Aunty Merle has got no filter, but there's also, because she would say things like, to the ladies around the lounge, which I heard at that time as a little boy, of, what's happening in the road, whose husband is working night shift, and then there's another Ford Cortina parked in front of that house when he's working night shift. And it would be, no, it's not a Skinner session. We're not talking about people, but we have to share this so we know what to pray for. So
nice take on it.
yes, so that's the attack of Aunty Merle, sort of. And and when I brought it onto stage, I didn't even know it was my own therapy of dealing with those memories. Fortunately, I could address it and am able to still address these things under the banner of comedy. So, earlier on I made reference to that there was so much laughter there, but in the kitchen, it was the ladies and it was food. It was a lot of talk about what's going on down the road and in the neighborhood. And I'm very aware of the fact now that I grew up in a time where we didn't have access to people like you, making sense of all the madness, or talking about survival tools, or we didn't have access to textbooks about, but there was no such thing of an option to leave your marriage, or an option to question
where you're at.
Yeah, where you're at, or is my devotion to the church too much? Should I not be, spending more time with these two boys? It was just a different time, and a time of a lot of acceptance of a lot of stuff. And yet, in all of that, there was a happy childhood. I don't know about, you asked me about the boy Mark, and I don't know if your emphasis is on Mark at home or Mark in the street, but my memories of Mark in the road, little boy Mark in the road, that was a lot of carefree times and joy. I remember, because now still my friends and I who are in touch from that time, we talk about, because we didn't have tennis courts or any of that. So when Wimbledon was on, we'd go into the street and we'd make a court with the sand and, do the court, and someone would be the umpire. The kid in the road, there was always some kid who was privileged, who had the bats, not even tennis rackets. But that kid, you had to make sure that they were winning all the time, because if there was going to be a fight, they would leave with everything. I'm taking my bat and I'm taking my balls. But there was joy even in that, in being able to just, makeshift tennis courts, playing in the street and doing whatever. So I think when I talk about my childhood now, particularly to those friends, I'm quite amazed by how happy we were.
There's one overarching theme, and when we confront with stress, and today there's no shortage of stress. It's really endemic. there's different strategies. We can regulate ourselves. We can do the breathing, the yoga, and the meditation, and we can change our perception of stress. We can look after our health a little bit better. And we saw that with COVID. But what you've described is more powerful than all of them combined. And that is that in our ancestral past, whenever we handled challenge or discomfort in our lives, we did it as a community. And what you've described there is this richness. Yes, it's complicated. Yes, there's challenges. Yes, it's hard some days. Yeah, we have interpersonal dynamics, but we've got each other.
Yeah.
And we've lost that. We've lost this. We have a virtual community, but it's not community. And community brings about huge hormonal changes, neurochemical changes. So we're expressing a molecule called oxytocin. It makes us feel confident and fearless, and we empathetic, and we compassionate, and we connect to others, and we strive. And when we lose connection, we don't strive. And we start focusing on our own inner universe, and ultimately it starts to implode. But the humor that you have, the humor that you found, now it's a profession. What did you use it for then?
I didn't know then, you obviously don't think that in my life, in my adult life, I would eventually become, I would turn into someone who gets paid to tell jokes. But I think, there were many families back then who just, laughter was very important, and it was a way of, you knew that if you were going to get together, there would be lots of laughter, and so it was not necessarily a conscious thing, but I have clear memories of always having the need to tell a funny story and to diffuse what could potentially be
tension,
conflict. I have clear memories of the need to always do that, sure, and the yearning to always want that. And just to juxtapose, having said that, I also have very clear memories of then walking into a situation where there was conflict and the knot in my stomach. Yeah. Because that uncle was having an argument with that niece, and I just wanted to die.
So it was a vehicle. It was like a lever where you can influence the room and shape the room and change perspectives and just discharge.
But I remember being really, really upset by
conflict.
Yes, and one day I saw my cousin was seeing a guy, and she brought him along on an outing, and he slapped her. And I'll never forget it. It was at Tukai Forest. And I could not believe, it was the first time I saw one human being physically, and a man at that slap woman. It was the first time in my life actually seeing it.
How did you deal with it?
I was traumatized, and I remember writing a letter to her, and saying to her how upset I was by that, but then when I was a kid, and how could I help her, because she shouldn't be in that situation.
What's made you so empathetic? I mean, that's you're young yourself. It's happening to someone else. It's impactful, but what shifts in you internally to feel someone else's pain?
Well, bear in mind, I've never seen that at home. Never ever seen that at home. My father never raised his voice. And I think if my mother was giving my brother and I a spanking, it would be filled with so much apology while she was doing it. So, because that really happened. Yeah. And so I think for me to I don't know where that sense of discomfort came from. And maybe it's interesting now, having this conversation, because perhaps that led to this path of, because of being, I've always shied away from comedian. It scared me because I always believe comedians have to be very skilled, and I always thought I was just a funny storyteller. But maybe that leads on to some of what I do with my life now, which is to make sure that by the time people leave the space, if they've had any kind of interaction or engagement with me, that they are much happier than what they were when they came in. And that is why now
Powerful.
It's so important for me, because now when I get messages from people, they, yes, they go, what a great time, what a lekker time, because some people wait for you after the show, which is always a good sign, and they tell you, I feel, we just, our stomachs are hurting. But I also get messages now with people, and this means so much to me, when people say, my dad was sick, and it's a terrible time for the family because we knew the doctor said 2 to 3 months. And on his list was a Marc Lottering show. And then they bring him.
Sure.
And they write to me when the dad's passed on. And they go, our memory of him screaming with laughter is a memory we will treasure forever, because that's what he wanted to do.
So, were you in tears when you read that kind of message?
I'm quite emotional now.
Yeah. It makes me quite emotional.
Because, that is, I think that's the important part of the work.
You
Fun stuff, come to fun stuff.
Tell us a joke.
Tell us a joke, Mark.
So, you said that sinking feeling, that feeling in your stomach when there's tension around you. So I grew up in a very difficult home. Alcohol was a catalyst behind so much of the abuse and the dysfunction and everything else that went with it. And the memory I have as a teenager is, as I used to kind of walk through that door, my stomach would collapse. I would feel this sinking feeling and my heart would start racing, to the point where eventually I didn't come home. I would go home and then to work, and then home and just to get changed and go to work. And I would spend a few minutes at home every day at the very most, just to avoid that feeling.
Yeah.
And laughter, unlike your reality, laughter didn't exist. The childhood that you've shared, is there any part of that childhood that no one knows about?
So I did a show last year called Marc Lottering, which I really should have been getting a lot more awards for. and my childhood, for the first time, I talk about that in the show, which is why it's so interesting as to where our conversation is going today, because I think I'm much more comfortable about it now. Because you realize, I think the older you get in life, you realize that when you're with your friends, how injured and fractured and dear Maka we all are. Nobody arrives at the table perfect, or this destination of being perfectly healed, or we all have our stuff. And it's so important to realize that, because I think we grow up, and I'm a Cape Townian through and through, and my vision board was, if I can get the house in Clifton, get the house in Clifton, get the gym contract, get the perfect husband, get the right skincare, the perfect dog. Don't even get a thoroughbred. Get the nicest one from the shelter. The picture's great. That's the kind of pressure. I'm just going from a Cape Town perspective,
100%, yeah.
But I think it's around the world. And so I got to the Atlantic seaboard, and I got the six-pack husband, and I got the dog from the shelter. My dog's the best looking dog.
I have no doubt.
Yeah.
Magnificent.
I don't want to fight with you. Yeah?
You haven't seen my dog.
No, I don't even want to. I'm so embarrassed about your dog. So I haven't seen the dog yet.
Everyone stops when I walk the dog. Everyone stops.
But now, that I'm 58, so what happens is everybody in my group now in my close circle. There are a few young ones, but we all, I think, between 42 and 58. So, and now people are more real, you know, and we see through the nonsense, but we also laugh and cry a lot more about what we're all going through. Stuff that we didn't present to each other when we first met 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and that's great. That is such a release.
It's
you know,
very liberating.
It's very liberating, but when you're able to separate the stuff of what we all think we need to acquire to get to the heart and to get to the substance. And I'll tell you the interesting thing about that also is that I'm finding now that losing people along the way, I'm okay with it. Because I never used to be, okay, I must go and find out why, oh my goodness, why is Garth so upset? Or not doing. But it's okay also to lose people along the way if you're on the journey to going. I'm not here to waste time. I am here to have a great time, but I also don't want to waste time.
Yeah.
Yes, I want to work, but now I want my work to be fulfilling. And I even want the good times to be fulfilling. And when you have that, you find that more and more you want to be surrounded by real people.
Yes.
As well. So right now, for me, the journey is a very, very interesting one. I don't know if we ever get there. Wherever there is.
I think we go back to the destination comment. You know, is it the journey or is it the destination? I think it's the journey.
I agree with you.
And Rachel, I was with Rachel Khaleesi a couple of nights ago, and she was here last week. And we had this conversation about we go through all these interventions, we go through these therapies, and we work on ourselves. And do we ever arrive? No, the reality is I don't think we do. I think we're in a better place.
Yes.
But it's part of the process. And there's gifts and there's certain vulnerabilities that come with us and are part of the baggage. But very interesting you said is that so many of us strive or aspire to have what everyone else wants. The Clifton House, the best. We won't argue about dogs right now, but the best looking shelter dog.
Should I give my phone? I can show you pictures.
No, you're gonna pass out. You're gonna pass out. So we aspire for these.
Okay.
When you see my dog, you're gonna pass out. I mean, she is regarded in Cape Town as probably the most.
I know, but passing out is an extreme reaction to a picture of a dog. But please carry on.
Well, most people, as they're walking, they pass out. But so we kind of have this. Certainly, we're striving in our younger days, in our younger years. This is what we believe is going to define us. And as we evolve, and as we grow, and as we become masters of our domain, whatever that really means, we realize the only thing that's of value is connection, relationships, family. Only thing that actually matters.
For sure.
And this the longest study in history was a study initiated at Harvard. The current researcher that runs it is a guy called Robert Waldinger, and it started in 1938. And everyone in 1938 within this group and in the expanded group, which included their spouses and their kids, they were saying, what do you want in life? What's going to make you happy? I'm going to be happy if I have a bigger car and a bigger house and I'm a CEO of this and I have more power and I can yield that power and I can change the world and I can control the world. That was the definition of happiness. And as the decades passed, a lot of them achieved that. And they reflect on their lives and we're not happy. We're empty. What really brings happiness? And they concluded the only thing that brings health and happiness is what we've just talked about now. It's connection and relationships. We're kind of jumping along to 1997 now.
Okay.
In your journey.
Okay.
Your first show.
Yes.
After the beep.
Yes.
What was going through your mind the night before? Not the confident version that you have now, the real one. What was going through your mind? It's a massive leap.
The night before, lots of excitement, The fascinating thing about doing something like that, if you're going to do your first show ever, is that you have absolutely nothing to lose. And when I put that show together, I was honestly in the moment. I'm doing it now, but I'll more than likely go back to my job next month.
So that if it didn't work out, you go back to your job.
Yes, but it wasn't even a if it didn't work out. It was just like, I'm not taking it seriously. You know, I'm just so happy that this guy said, come to this space. It was called the Coffee Lounge in Church Street in Cape Town. And you just walk up the stairs, you can get 20 chairs in there, 20 plastic chairs. And you can just talk to these people because I had hired that space for my birthday, for my 30th birthday. And on my 30th birthday, I decided to, I hired a microphone and I decided to talk to my friends for 30 minutes, which now in the world becomes stand-up. And I took a little scarf out of my back pocket and I put it on my head, and that became the character Aunty Merle. And the owner of that venue that I hired, he said, can you come back for the next 2 weeks every night and do exactly what you did on your birthday? So that's
20 chairs.
20 chairs.
20
One
chairs.
night we were sold out because there were 23 people standing in the room only.
So going into it, you relaxed. You weren't nervous the night before, or
And I'll never have that again. And I always think about it now when I write shows. I will never have that luxury again of
expectation.
Yes, because nobody knew my first name or my surname. I could go out there, make an absolute idiot out of myself, and it would be fine. And then I go to, and I knew something was weird because soon after that, my friends were like, no, you have to do this again and go to Joburg. And I was in Joburg. I took a bus to Joburg. I slept on the floor of my father. I had a friend there. And I slept in her lounge on the floor in exchange for complimentary tickets. But the luxury of after the beep, of having, and of course I must have had nerves, but they were great nerves. And I remember before even, walking onto the stage, Anwar was backstage going, oh my word, are you mad? Like there are 20 people sitting there and they've like paid tickets. I think it was quite expensive. It was like 12 Rand to see me. And these people had paid 12 Rand. If you booked late, you got a penalty. It was 15 Rand. Cash only, hey? So there was this envelope and we were like, are you crazy? But I never went back to, what people would call a full-time job.
So that was it.
that.
Not going back to work the next week. Or
Going back to work the next week. Wow. And then there was the feeling of just knowing that I'm in my lane. Because it didn't matter what people were saying, just the sound of that laughter. And I remember at the Baxter Theatre at the time, they started a thing called the Funny Festival, where they would bring in all these international comedians. And the producer of that show, he was casting South African people for the show as well. And I clearly remember going to this audition and him saying, this was lovely and you're a lovely chap. When people say you're a lovely chap, you know it's coming. You're a lovely chap.
Yeah.
But what did you previously? I said I'm in work with an advertising agency. Says you must really think about staying there.
Really?
Yes. He has subsequently tried to book me for years, and I worked with him afterwards. But the delicious thing is that I keep making him think that I forgot about that. And then, on my second glass of white, I would always go, do you remember that? Like telling me to stick to advertising.
It reminds me of a story. Like it's so apt. I've written a few books, and the first book, I invested so much time and so much energy, 4 years of my life, and I was going to write the best book ever on the topic of stress, ever. And I just, nights and days, the average day was get up at 3 a.m., work and then work again. And
3 a.m.
3 a.m. It was fully committed, and I come out with this manuscript. I believe this is the manuscript. And there's going to be this bidding war with all the agencies, bidding war for this manuscript. And who should I send it to first? And I choose some of the big publishers, and it's hard to get through to them. It's like really difficult, but and a couple of overseas. And I'm expecting, as I press send, I'm expecting a response. Like send, response, we want it. So about 4 weeks later, I haven't got a response. Eventually they start trickling in. And one of the publishers I really wanted to take on this project, they reply saying, not at all for us. It's not a topic that anyone's interested in. We don't believe it's going to do particularly well. Good luck. And you're thinking, oh my goodness. So I take a position. If they're not going to pay, I've got to all this effort. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to self-publish. And I self-publish. And it's a good self-publish, but it's really amateur. And a few friends of mine take a few copies. I'm sitting with like 500 copies in the cupboard. And how something kind of unfolds, and my current publisher, Pan Macmillan, they get a copy of this book, and they say, look, we think it's terrific. We're going to rejig it. We'll take the rights from you and let's put it into the marketplace. And they backed me. They pushed me.
Such important things you say so softly. We'll take the rights from you, and then they backed me.
they backed me, and it turned out to be a bestseller. Wow. But it's interesting you say that. It's sometimes our dreams can be shattered by a single word or a single sentence, and it takes a lot of resilience to just keep pushing through and keep going.
But don't you think it's wonderful that happens to us?
At the time, I don't think it's as wonderful.
On the night, on the night, it's obviously not great.
But we got two choices in that situation, have we not? We got one, be defeated by the circumstance, and what they say must be true. Or two is to say, no, I'm not going to be defined by what you say. I'm not going to be defined by the circumstance. I'm not going to be defined by this moment. Maybe it wasn't good enough at the time.
Yes.
But it will be.
It will be. Because I feel that the no thank yous make me feel like Uncle Mark backstage in the dressing rooms now with the younger comedians. Because when I remember my no thank yous and they complaining, because they're 23 and they didn't get this, and they go, let Uncle Mark tell you, Let me
tell you what it's like. Yeah.
So it's wonderful to be able to speak from experience when there was going to be possible failure, depending on your reaction to a particular situation. So yeah, I'm happy for the no thank yous. I'm happy for the no thank yous.
They fueled me. In this last book I wrote, I talked about a situation where I went to an aptitude test, and I'm 15 years old, 16 years old, having a tough time at home. I'm not sleeping at all, and I go and have this test, and I give it my best, my very, very best.
What 15-year-old has an aptitude test?
It was the 80s. It was the 80s. Anything went down in the 80s. And I walk out 2 hours later, and I'm not going to get my results that day, and I'm very proud of myself. And I look at the assessor, not as impressed by what I did as I am. 2 weeks later, I go back to this guy's office, and he says, I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing you're not going to be good at anything. And it's one of those inflection points, because like as a 16-year-old, you just want to know where your contribution lies, where you're going to be recognized, where what you do matters to the world. Like, how am I going to differentiate? And someone's telling you at 16 years old, it's not going to happen.
Wow.
It's hard. Yeah. So and it fueled me. It said, I will show you.
Yes.
I will show you that this is not going to materialize.
Yes.
And it was a lot of the driving force in so many of my decisions in my earlier life. But first of all, your comedy style is different. It's more storytelling.
Yes. Up to this day.
Have you shifted now?
In terms of the style of what I do, no, I haven't, I think the difference now is that I'm more comfortable, in my skin with what I do and how I do it. When I was a student at UCT, because my parents thought I should go and study law, I was an usher at the Baxter Theatre at the time. So that was, I think, over a 5-year period. That was my job. I'd go from campus, I'd go down, put on the white shirt, the black tie, and the staff badge. And then I got to see every show that I wanted to see. So and that is what turned me on. But I couldn't go back to my parents in retreat and say this money that you, because I would hear how my mother would speak about, and you know, when you're going to study law, you first have to do your undergrad, you have to do your BA. But my parents would never tell people he's doing his BA. They would say what, people would hardly complete their sentences about what Mark's doing. I'd hear my mother scream, law. Mark is studying law. so you can't go back and say that I'm turned on when I go and see theatre. But then I saw all these comedians on stage. And, Solly Philander, Peter Dirk Ace, you'd see Mark Banks, and then the internationals coming to perform on the stage as well. And I thought, I like telling a funny story, but I'm definitely not a comedian, because look how great these people are. Because when you're young and you watch somebody just with their words have an invisible magic wand to make 650 people just roar with laughter.
It's
like
incredible.
that for 90 minutes.
It's
You're
incredible.
like, how is this human being even doing this? But it was a strange thing, and maybe I'm just a strange child, because I kept leaving the theatre going, I can do that. And then I had the audacity, the nerve, to approach directors with my staff badge on, going, excuse me, I'm studying law, just here
But I'm really funny.
up the road, but I would like to, can I get a chance to jump on your stage? And I see that you're also auditioning a new musical, no theatre training, no actor training. Can I, and they go, to do what? And I said, like a lead role. And they would look at my staff badge and obviously think that I'm on impossible amount of dacha. And I would go, staff, no. These people have studied for years and years to do this, and you can't. And now those directors always obviously talk nonsense as they do, and they come. We always knew you had it. They come to the shows.
Did you get your opportunity though?
No.
No.
No, that was the biggest. And I somehow never took it as a go and sit in the corner. I was just like, well, it's your loss. I'm obviously going to be on that stage, because let me get past the hurdle of just telling my parents that they wasted 94 million rand. Once I have that discussion with lemon creams and tea, and then I will break the news to them that I actually just want to pick up a pen, write my own shows, and get on stage. But from then I went, and life, the wonderful thing about, we spoke about the journey earlier. I ended up working in marketing and advertising, and I worked in the ad agency, and that changed my life, because I suddenly met creatives and I met copywriters, and they pushed me. The head of the ad agency pushed me to speaking with my own voice, in my own accent, not shying away from telling my own story. And so it was the most natural progression. All the no thank yous made me pick up my own pen, because the script was never going to be presented to me, because I'm not the right look, the right fit, the right sound for, whatever projects were happening at the time. So the no thank yous were a lot. But I only know now in retrospect that whatever is out there needed for me, in order for me to become the Marc Lottering that people talk of now, I had to pick up my own script, my own pen, write my own script, my own stories. And now with the musicals, I write all the music for the shows. I write from the get-go. You'll be amazed what you can do with a box of white wine. I write
A box of white wine.
From the first note that is sung, all the lyrics, the music, I compose it all, I write it all, and I write the script. And no, people will tell you that that's not what you're supposed to do, but I knew in my heart, and that is because I spent every night in church, immersed in music. Wow. That, for my brother Tony and I, we were introduced to it as though every child in the neighborhood was. So I was in shock when I met other kids in the neighborhood who were not going to church, where hands were being. I said, do people not pray until you like fall over? And they go, no, Mark, that's actually not normal. So, and I said, do people not run around the church while the band is playing? Don't you jowl in church? And they go, no, that is actually not normal. You are a weird child. But all of that has been brought into fruition now in my life. And I only started the music thing, I think, around 2017. But it's amazing for
Full
me now.
circle.
When I look back, and the questions that you asked earlier about the little boy Mark and all of that, those things are only really starting to make sense for me in my life now. And I channel that into the work as well.
It's amazing how there's this golden thread that kind of, in hindsight, in retrospect, we can make sense of all of this.
Absolutely.
And it's just like aha moment.
Yeah.
But, you know, you kind of, you take the road that you've taken in comedy. And in order to do that, you have to notice things. You have to have a keen eye. Specific things, true things, nuances. Where does that eye come from?
That eye comes from, it's just always been there. You know, yesterday I told someone, she was intrigued by my father being a preacher in the church. So from then, I was a lighty. I was obviously much younger, but you'd sit in church, obviously looking up, looking at people, what people are wearing, how people are reacting, and then I'm watching my father deliver the sermon. Preaching is theater.
It is.
You know, and I would watch, because I would be with him, you know, week after week. So I'd see the sermon being delivered at different churches. And I knew the story, there was a way that the story needed to be told and the emotions that you... So I've always been observant, always been observant. And to this day still, people, you know, when I said to you earlier, the audiences mean a lot to me. But in general, people turn me on as well. People say, what's funny in life? What do you laugh at? They would say to me. But I look around and I'm quite upset when I go to coffee shops and I can't hear what people are saying. I think it's very inconsiderate. People, especially if they're having a little argument or they're talking about their relationship.
You've got to share it.
They speak a bit louder because I want to know, because I can see something's going on at this table. So I like watching how people engage with each other, how people interact with each other. That's my thing. I can people watch for hours. And I've always just had that. And then...
Is it not a lonely place?
No, minding other people's business. No, it's not a lonely place at all. And I think it might have been a lonely place if I was not someone who enjoyed being social. When you use the word lonely, for me, and I'm fine with it, of going to wherever I write. Sometimes it's at home, and sometimes one of these remote offices here in Greenpoint. But that's the lonely place where you go, I'm doing this now. I have to do, for example, my show this year is called Ankle Mark because I had a moon boot for 8 weeks, and I share with the audience as to how that came about. But then somebody last night says to me, I saw a flyer because I'm going to do the show in another city. He said, I saw that you're doing the show called Ankle Mark. And someone close to me says, good luck with that, because you can't top Marc Lottering. So, ooh. And now I think today I've actually got IBS because of what he said to me. Because I'm going, yeah, you know, that is quite a thing. But then it becomes a lonely place because you've got to sit down and go, what's the focus here? Are we going to focus on the fact that I want to be excellent, which is where I should be, or that I've now got to be better? Look how good that show was. You'll never be better than what you than what you did back there. And those kinds of things, the creative process is a lonely space for me. And that's okay. And that's okay. And I've actually found out about myself as the years have gone on. When I'm creating and when I'm working, much like when I'm cleaning the kitchen, I need to be alone, much like when I'm cooking. Because it could cause a divorce if I'm in the kitchen cleaning up and Anwar suddenly comes in just quickly to make something in the blender because I know he's going to ruin that entire. That's good grounds for
If
divorce.
there's anything like me, it's the roof is going to be impacted, the floors are going to be impacted.
Leave me alone, when it's my time in the kitchen. But so my time to create as well. And often people have introduced projects to me and they said, you're going to work with a team. We'd like you to join this team. There'll be 5 of you. And already I go. And I used to say yes because you say yes to the budget, Yeah, that'll be great. And it's always never ever worked out for me. I'm a bit of a loner.
Your process is actually, even though you're so social, community based, your process is actually more isolated.
Yeah. So because when I come out of that, then I'm like you, where I go. If I give them this, it's going to be a bidding war.
Bidding war. I mean, I still love it. I'm still holding on to that. I'm still waiting for the bidding war. But like we talk about some of the highs, we talk about some of the journey. Have there been times when you weren't okay? And what does that look like for someone whose identity is built on making other people feel better? So if you're not okay and you go out there and you want to make a difference to everyone else, that's a hard space to occupy.
Yeah, I mean, the obvious time when I was not okay was when I was in jail. And I think it doesn't get, then you're not okay. I hold back on your shock.
I'm like, what
is he talking about?
It's like, I didn't get the brief. What's happening here? Seriously?
Yeah, the career got very rock and roll in the beginning. Yeah. And I got into my car under the influence of everything under the sun and smashed into 3 parked cars. I'm the only person who can write off 3 parked cars. And thank God it was in the middle of the night because I could have killed people. And immediately people are on the scene. I will never forget the tow truck driver arriving and his first words were, "My bro, we must take this selfie." And we're standing there. And the cops arrive and off to jail I go, way over the limit, of course, and I had to spend the night in jail. And a show was running at that time. And by the time, because you get out of jail, no, you won't know. You get out, may you never know. And you get out of jail, you go to court. And in that time, already every lamppost had the thing on Lottering, drunk driving, Lottering in jail. It was, and you just go, I will never recover from this. So this is how it ends. I told myself, oh wow, it was a great, short little exciting career, but you have choices at that point.
What year was this?
This, I think, I'm so bad with dates. I was the good one, but I think 2004 or 2005, around there. And it's one of the, I tried to get it removed from Google, but you can't. So you have to reassess, and what brought you to that point. And of course, my excuse would have been, too much too soon, and there's been no guidance, because it was kind of meteoric for me. But thank God I got a second chance. Thank God I didn't kill anybody, and I was able to come out of that. The Baxter called me, that's where I was performing at the time, to go, the whole season is now sold out.
Oh, wow.
Because you were in jail. Everybody wants to hear that story.
Opportunity in the crisis.
Yeah, and they made me walk on stage with, not they, the director of the show at the time, with hubcaps. And obviously you have to tell your story and then talk about remorse and what you think of that person that was in that car.
Well, certainly in the immediate aftermath, it must have been really challenging and really difficult.
I was in therapy.
What got you through this, like the really hard time? What has historically got you through hard times?
Through that time specifically, therapy played a big part, because you obviously talk about what got you to that point. But that got me through hard times, and I think what will always get me through hard times as well is love and support of people. There was so much love, especially from people who had been through that, who would keep telling you, you do get through the shame. You know, you do get past it, because shame is one of the heaviest things in the world to carry, because you walk around with it and you absolutely believe that everybody is looking at you through those lenses as well. But there are angels, you know, until people come up to you in the street outside and go, "Can I just hug you? You know, I know what you're going through. I can imagine what you're feeling. Can I just..."
Just those moments must be so like heart-wrenching.
Yeah, can I just tell you how much we love you, or my circle of friends, how much we adore you, and please, you know, you will get through this. And it's even better when it happens in a restaurant and people offer to pay for your food because they just think you're so burdened. You go like, "Oh, pizza, and can I?" So, but you get through it. And I think I get through those things with love, therapy,
community,
very important. Again, coming back to community.
Yeah.
Because I think that what you referred to earlier, you don't realize that that's happening until you look back and realize how important sense of community is.
So you know, you've been at it 30 years?
Yeah, almost.
Almost 30 years, 16 shows, 2 musicals. What's been the cost of this? We know the reward.
Yeah.
But, you know, we sometimes have to sacrifice pieces of ourselves, piece of our lives.
In terms of what has the cost been, what has the sacrifice been, there's not been a lot for me of sacrifice. I've found that I love people, and with that, I've not shied away from the spotlight. And afterwards, you know, when we're out with friends and people come up to me for a selfie, a lot of people often go, "I am so sorry." They always start with, "I am so sorry. I know you're out with your family, but, you know, my kids just, they need..." And I'm always going, don't be sorry. The world is so chaotic at the moment. So a lot of people, when they see me, they smile. And to be able to elicit that kind of response from a human being, when you consider how life is at the moment, I think that in itself is a gift, you know. People should not apologize for feeling that way and for wanting to take a selfie. And for me, for somebody to want to take a selfie with me, that's a big deal, actually. Because most people in the world walk around with nobody coming up to them wanting to take a selfie. So I don't take that for granted. And I quite enjoy that. Most times I take the phone myself because people take crap pictures, but I say, "Can I take it?" You know, because I know a little bit
You've
about...
taught me something. Okay.
I know a little bit about angles, and I go, "I've got the longest arm." They go, "Oh, yes, yeah, please." You know? Because when sometimes I'm horrified when I see what people pass off as okay. I'm like, and your filter, where's this? Everyone's got this light filter now. When people want to look as though they know, please, immediately. I run far away from whatever looks like tear gas. So let me take it on the proper filter. And so I don't mind. So I would be making up stories when I talk about the sacrifice. My life has been public mostly. I've been with Anwar for 27 years. I talk about it on stage as well, talk about my marriage, I talk about my sexuality. Because long ago, I've already discovered that people, haters love secrets. So when you've got a secret and you've got, you go, "Oh, no, I don't talk about that. Oh, no, you know, it's off limits. Don't talk to Mark. Don't mention Anwar's name because it's an interviewer." The minute you have that set up, there are bullies who they don't call themselves bullies, they just
No, you
call
take the
themselves
power
humans.
away.
They're bullies who go, but we know, and so my life is mostly, I've been open about most things. There are a couple of exes that I don't talk about because, just to protect their marriages. But I've mostly been open, and so there have been, if there's sacrifices, gosh, they don't even come to mind.
And while you this whole piece that you've been kind of building on now, the only thing that can provide light through all the demands and all the expectations and all the criticisms and everything about it is passion. It's
Oh yes,
it's passion. It gets through the dark, and it gets through all the spaces in your life. And if you're driven by passion, I mean, that ultimately is the currency of our lives. And if you found it, which you clearly have,
sir, that is spot on. Because if that is not there, what are we doing?
it's not
here?
work.
What are we doing here?
Yeah.
And I think that's what people feel.
But there's one thing that's even bigger. So passion is for you. I'm passionate about making people smile, making people laugh, making a difference, sharing my skill set, bringing joy. But your passion is actually morphed into purpose. So passion's for us. Purpose is, what can I do for someone else? And how can I make their reality different? And why the cost has felt very low is because you're operating off this vehicle of passion and purpose, which I think is a lesson for all of us.
Amen. Sure, I haven't been to church in a long time, but I'm saying amen a lot today.
Now, you mentioned Anwar.
Yes.
What does he know about you that no one else does?
Oh, well, but you see, that's something that he often says at the dinner table. And he would always giggle when he says it, and other people laugh around him. Mark likes pretty girls. So, who doesn't? No, but he says it in another kind of way. I've always found, because he's always been intrigued by the fact that I've often found myself in the company, but I'm very entertained by ex-beauty queens. Because I always think we don't focus on them enough. Look at you already. No, we don't. You must get one or two of them in this chair.
I've dated one or two of them.
Oh, you've dated one or two of them. Okay, trigger. Trigger.
Cut.
I find that they have the most interesting stories to tell. So in that context, Anna always says, Mark likes pretty girls, and they love me. Yeah, and we get on, and we end up in cars loudly playing Barry Manilow songs while speeding up Cliff Street to get something to eat. But they have very interesting stories to tell, because I think in life, when you look at people, you often, people say don't take people at face value. But many people tell you that the way they look has often been, before they've even opened their mouths, people have made up their minds about who they are. And that is why I've for hours and hours and hours, would listen to people telling me about how they get through pageants and what's been happening, and how they really feel when they see a crown being placed on somebody else's head, but you've got away because you're going to feed children now. So that I find that entertaining, and I love that.
What does laughter give you? Not the audience, you.
An EFT, big EFT. This is what broke my heart, what breaks my heart with the musicals, and I've said this often, so I can say it to you because my colleagues know this. I always tell them, when I bow with them on stage, there's raucous laughter and a standing ovation, and you take that bow because the show worked. And then I always look at them and I think, I've got to split this money. Because when I'm taking my bow alone, like, yes. But laughter, for me, it brings, for me, it's always promise. and a reminder of the heyday of our country when Madiba was still around and everybody, looked at us as this miracle nation. And then we drifted far from that, and social media can be the ugliest platforms if you go onto X or Twitter, because it's divisive. You people, them, those people, us. It's just vile. People become vile on social media, as we all know. They say things that they would never say to you if they were sitting across a table from you. And so for me, as the comedian, and for every comedian in this country, laughter, we get the privilege of not only hearing laughter, but of looking at that auditorium as we take that bow, of seeing all South Africans under one roof laughing at the same stuff. Those are not discussions you're going to get on X.
Exactly.
Because people don't want us, they don't want to hear that we prefer to fight, we prefer conflict. Some people wake up in the morning, who can I take down today? So, you can hold a rose, I've always said this, you can hold a rose in your hand, or whatever flower is in your garden, and dare to post it on Twitter. Look, I went into my garden. I'm not a gardener. I can't believe it. There's a rose. And one person will say, look at that ring on that finger holding that rose. Where did you get that money for that? So it's the options that we choose. And so laughter reminds me
anything's possible
about this part of South Africa that many of us prefer not to see. And we are privileged as comedians because we get to experience that.
Sure. If the 15-year-old version of you, the pastor son in retreat, who didn't yet know that any of this was possible.
Oh, I hate these questions, yes.
If he could see you right now, what would he say to you?
If he could see me right now, what would he say to me? He would probably say, so instinctively I want to say, he would say, nee lekker, but he would say, brilliantly done.
What would you say to him?
Thank you. Because there was a lot of strength in 15-year-olds. A lot.
Yeah.
That you don't see a strength because you get by day after day after day, you get through the day. But for the strength and for the gifts of resilience and strength, to the 15-year-old, I would say thank you.
Sure.
I get so, my heart breaks when I now read about 12-year-olds in South Africa committing suicide. And my heart breaks because you read the story and you try and go back to what took her there on that Thursday, or what took him there. And it's always somehow related to social media or the school. It always pops up what's been the bullying or what was said on social media. And so we didn't have that when we were growing up. People didn't have the opportunity to gang up against you with a video and post it to thousands and thousands and thousands of people.
There's an interesting thing what happens to the brain. The regions of the brain that process social isolation, social rejection, are the same regions that process physical pain. So it's the equivalent. If you've been rejected or you ostracized or you feeling isolated or in some way different, the feeling is physical. It is deeply, deeply physical.
Wow. And that can take you to there.
So I'm going to change pace a little bit. I'm going to go Couple of rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Okay.
See, this is why I love pageant girls, because they prepared me for this.
Okay. Question number 1. The version of this career you're most afraid you almost lived.
Sure, I think it would be to be drunk every day.
Sure. What still terrifies you before a show after 30 years?
Why are they here? Because I can hear them as before I'm about to walk on stage. That's still the hearing that laughter in the auditorium of 650 people, and they hand you the microphone before the curtain goes up. I'm always like, why are they here?
What do you want to be remembered for that is not related to comedy?
Healing.
What's the question you hoped I wouldn't ask today?
What would you tell your 15-year-old self?
All right. So at the end of each show, I ask a question around the idea of shift happens. What does shift happens mean to you?
A shift happens, I guess to me, that would mean if you're living consciously, then a shift has to happen. So for me, it's a very healthy thing. Obviously, a shift in the right direction. Not a shift of, to hell with all of this, I'm just regressing.
But conscious living.
Going back to Long Street every night. But if you live consciously, there needs to be a shift. And it is a fantastic thing. I see it in, it's hard for me to separate myself from my work because that's how comfortable I am with my work. I see it as one thing. Purpose now. Passion for you, but purpose for me. I don't know who said that to me. But I see it as one thing. So when I go back to, and this is just damn marvelous, when I go back 20 years now and I watch a tape of myself, it's obviously completely different to today. But then I go back 10 years, still very different. And now, 5 years back, it's still different to my perspective now, how I carry myself on stage, how I choose to tell a story, and what I believe I should leave the audience with. There's a constant shift because I think, because I see my comedy as a calling. So if you're true to your calling and you're conscious about the fact that it's a calling, you realize, my brew, we are not just here to make jokes. The jokes are very important for me because I have no option but to make jokes because that is my go-to place in life, whether I'm on the stage or whether I'm off the stage. But by the end of that engagement, how did I make you feel? What did I leave you with? So I think more like that now. And when you think like that, then there's a shift in the right direction. Whether it's the stand-up shows on my own or whether it's the big musicals, the arc of the stories. What are we leaving people with? Because gone are the days of ta-da. There has to be so much more for all of us, for me as the artist and for the members of the audience.
Sure. Marc, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sharing you with everyone and with me. And just wishing you strength and continued success for another 2 decades.
Wow, thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me. What an absolute pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
From Marc's story, there are 3 standouts. The first is around rejection, something we can all relate to. And what we see in Marc's story is it's not the end. In many respects, it may just be the beginning. As hard as it may be, use these moments as feedbacks and opportunity to grow and improve. The second takeaway is that we tend to go full circle. The hero's journey is one where we have the courage to move into the unknown, which is difficult. But we find a path, we may find a guide or a mentor, and we grow and we learn and we evolve. We then come back to where it started, where we started. But now we are different because it's who we are on the inside that needs to move. The third takeaway is around passion. When we are passionate about what we are doing, there is no cost, there is no tax, we have energy. Are we pursuing our passions or just existing? At some point, we need to ask that question of ourselves. So my call to action for this episode centers on passion and reigniting passion. And we're going to use curiosity as the lever. What I'm going to ask you to do is write down 3 things that you're curious about but haven't pursued. I then want you to circle only one and commit for the next 30 days to deepening and widening your experience and knowledge in this particular area. Join me for our next podcast and keep shifting.
Shift Happens is a First Light and Prime Media collaboration. This episode was produced by Grant Jensen and Kaylee Cruiser and filmed by Stephen Phillipson.